It's been a little while since we've just sat down and caught up on our feelings, thoughts, opinions about The Sims 4, and I know you lot have a lot because I have been seeing so much discourse recently about The Sims 4, so I figured the start of a new year, I mean, we are almost finished with January, which is a little bit scary, would be a great time just to take a little breather, catch up on some things, and discuss a lot of the things that I've been seeing throughout the community over the last few weeks. I will say most of this was brought up by the Goth Galore kit, which I honestly don't think I've seen so much discourse around a kit since kits were actually released back in March of 2021. It does make me laugh that we're still having the same conversations because I do honestly just think that kits are here to stay. But the reason I feel like Goth Galore kit brought up so many discussion points was the fact that goth is such an umbrella term. There are so many subgenres and fashion under goth. Fake Gamer Girl actually just did an incredible video kind of deep diving into just some subgenres of goth, so definitely go check out that video if you haven't. I found it super interesting, but obviously a lot of people were very disappointed by that kit. It didn't really hit what they wanted it to hit. Some people were even saying that they just wish it looked more like the concept art that we initially voted on. Some other people were like, oh, this is like mall goth, this isn't really what I was expecting, this kind of feels too new, I was expecting more like romantic goth. I saw a lot of people saying this should have been a stuff pack instead of a kit, which I actually think is a very interesting concept and something that I want to put forward to you all today. Do you think that we should potentially bring back stuff packs of the Sims 3 era? Now hold your horses before anyone lashes out at me in the comments. I am a stuff pack defender. Ever since Moschino stuff packs have been some of my very favorite releases for The Sims 4. I absolutely love the newer stuff packs. I love the gameplay that they add. I feel like it's a way for them to take on a much thinner theme, but actually get the details that they want to tell. Like paranormal stuff will forever, I think, be my favorite, even though it has been glitchy for me recently. But I figured the best way to remind you of what a Sims 3 stuff pack looked like was actually hopping into The Sims 3. I have pretty much all of them, minus the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Don't ask me what it did to offend me. I think when The Sims 3 came out, I was just like, I don't need that. And I think I only started buying stuff packs actually very, very far into the lifespan of The Sims 3. Is this video just an excuse for me to listen to The Sims 3 build mode music? Yeah, maybe. But over here, we actually have the high-end lot stuff. And I want to point it out there, when Sims 3 said stuff pack, they meant it. Emphasis on the stuff. Because there wasn't really a lot of new gameplay added when it came to Sims 3 stuff packs. So of course I'm gonna have an affinity for the packs that actually more so introduce gameplay rather than just kind of new objects that your Sims can use. Like obviously a shower is usable, a bath is usable, but these don't really differentiate from anything else we had in the game that already had these use cases. Kind of like what you see sometimes in the Sims 4 kits. It doesn't happen very often, but with the little campers kit, for example, you basically got reskins of objects that already existed, and it was at a smaller price point than if you went ahead and bought a stuff pack or an expansion pack or a game pack. Also, can we just get a moment of silence for the love heartbed? I did not realize that this came with high-end loft stuff. We actually have 45 build and buy mode objects that came with high-end loft stuff, and then within Creator Sim we only had 8 feminine and 7 masculine, so there were 15 new Creator Sim assets. Then we have I got a fast car, which is fast lane stuff. This was basically for all of your Sims who were super into cars, and if you wanted to like switch up your garages, it also allowed you to make like little petrol stations and stuff, which I think is quite fun. Love a little Vespa. Did anyone actually ever buy like an F1 car for The Sims? Because can't relate. And then again, just build and buy mode assets that you could kind of use as a decoration. We had 43 build and buy mode objects, and then 11 feminine and 6 masculine assets, which in total leads to 60. High-end loft stuff also had 60 in total. I always feel like I say Master Suite stuff was one of my favorites for The Sims Sims 3, but when I actually look at the build and buy mode assets, I'm like, have I been lying to myself for all of these years? Because I don't think I've actually ever used any of these build and buy mode assets. Maybe the bed potentially once or twice. When I was placing these items down, I was having a little bit of an identity crisis, but don't worry, because then I hopped into Create a Sim and remembered exactly why I love this stuff pack. Because build and buy mode might have only got 30 objects in total. However, we got 35 feminine stuff, and then unfortunately, the trend of masculine Sims not getting anything also existed in The Sims 3 because masculine Sims actually got 5 Creator Sim assets, a mere 5. They really said we are scraping the barrel for these men. And honestly, this one doesn't look that impressive when you look at it, but I stand by the fact that Diesel stuff was my absolute favorite. I was a Creator Sim girly, and that's where I feel like Diesel stuff absolutely shines, because obviously we only got 14 build and buy mode objects, but we did get 19 feminine assets within Create a Sim, and then we got a total of 22 masculine assets. So in total, it had 55, whereas Master Suite stuff had 70. I feel like this potentially could have been the biggest stuff pack that we had for The Sims 3, but like I said, it is pretty much stuff. Things that make your houses look different, that make your Sims look different from one another, with no real gameplay tied to it. Like, it doesn't introduce new systems, it doesn't introduce new careers. Now, obviously, this is all theory. This is just a concept that I'm putting out there. I'm trying not to get caught up in the actual realism of how they would market it, how they would actually introduce this pack, as to not confuse consumers, because that's obviously very, very important, especially when you already have stuff packs in The Sims 4 that are, one, not only cheaper than The Sims 3, which I think is an important point, because sometimes when I think we think about past Sims games, we do have the rose-tinted glasses of nostalgia on, but stuff packs currently for The Sims 4, even the newer ones that in my opinion are way more worth it and are way higher in quality, are $8.99 over here in the UK, whereas The Sims 3 stuff packs, even so many years down the line, are still $14.99. I personally just think Sims 4 does stuff packs better. I'm sorry. I love Sims 3. I get so much enjoyment out of the gameplay, but the Sims 3 stuff packs don't really add gameplay, so of course I'm actually gonna support the Sims 4 ones. But let's just say, in our imaginations, if the Sims team were actually to release a stuff pack around that $8.99 price point, depending on how many assets are included, obviously you would expect more of those aesthetic assets that we have in the Sims 3, because you're not gonna really have the gameplay tied to it. If we just got a full Creator Sim of like 70 assets that were for goth. And I feel like that's probably enough to get the ball rolling on including numerous different subgenres. Would that be something that you would be willing to spend your money on, rather than a $4.99 kit, which I have proven time and time again is not a third of the stuff pack, as much as people like to claim that? I also just have pros and cons in general when it comes to kits. Obviously, it's kind of an entry level price point. Like $4.99 for a lot of players is what they could spend. Like, maybe they can't actually spend their money on an expansion pack, they can't get a game pack, but the current stuff packs in the game and also kits, they're like, this is my price point, this is what I can get, and they feel like they're getting new content for their money. They're also very, very trendy because they are so small, and I feel like they are quite quick to release, which has been proven by how many of them we have had so far in The Sims 4. It actually gives the team time to play around with very current trends, and they can get the turnaround done quite quickly, it feels. They're also good for people who can't download custom content, and also players on console, and I also think kits do offer a nice choice. I feel like because they are so small, it really gives you a pick and mix. Like, I wouldn't sit back and look at a specific kit and being like, oh man, I'm really missing this content and I'm missing out on this, because because maybe the theme doesn't really appeal to me. Maybe I'm just not really a builder. So any of the build kits, I think if I didn't buy them for my job or in the past had got them from EA, I definitely wouldn't be sat there thinking, oh, I need this to complete my collection, or I feel like I'm really missing out on this. I would simply just go on with my day and I would save myself $4.99. And I kind of want to keep that in the forefront of people's minds whilst we are discussing this, because obviously kits do have their pros for some people, and I think that is absolutely okay. Everyone has their own different opinions on every single different kit. But where do I sit on this topic of conversation? Obviously, I've spoken so frequently about how I don't think kits are worth the money. I also feel like they're just a terrible thing for the future of this franchise. I think kits are personally very reminiscent of microtransactions, and that worries me, especially when it comes to Project Rene, because we already know that we're getting mobile elements within that game. And obviously, mobile games are very well known for their microtransactions. So are they really going to keep on introducing this microtransaction feel to the mainline game? I also feel like kits continue the trend of what everyone complains about in The Sims 4, which is actually splitting up content into smaller and smaller packs and not just including it into one big pack. Which again, on the flip side, I'm like, well, it's a niche, so you can pick and choose. I don't know. My head is absolutely frazzled when it comes to this topic of conversation. So I'm gonna leave it with you lot. I want everyone down in the comments below to let me know how you feel about this concept. How would you feel if they did introduce a stuff pack that was just stuff? Hopefully I went over the Sims 3 ones enough if you've never played that game or you actually don't own any of the stuff packs to kind of grasp what they used to do and whether you would kind of want to see that represented in The Sims 4. I think it would offer them more room to play around with different things. I just personally don't feel that I would pay $8.99 for just stuff these days. The Sims 4 has absolutely spoiled me rotten when it comes to stuff packs, and I just don't think having a pack of stuff for £9 would personally appeal to my taste. Even if it was a theme or an aesthetic that I was absolutely desperate for within the game, I just don't feel like that is worth it to me personally. Gameplay is what keeps me really coming back to this game, and honestly, I just don't want more excuses to not have a gameplay within The Sims 4, and in-depth gameplay at that. Also, I can't believe I am about to defend The Sims 4 kits, but let me play devil's advocate for a second, because this makes sense in my brain. But usually in those kits, we get 20 to 25 items versus the 60 that we used to get in a Sims 3 stuff pack, which obviously we paid £15 for. If you times 3 kits by that, then you could get up to 70 assets if they all have 25 items. So technically, if you think about it, buying 3 kits for the same price point as a Sims 3 stuff pack could either equal the amount or could actually be a better deal. But then if you were spending £9 for this imaginary new stuff pack that I've created for The Sims 4, then it'd be an even better deal because you'd be getting those on average 60 items, but you rarely get that in 2 kits, which would cost £10. I hope that makes sense. I studied English, I didn't study maths. I've got my working out, but I don't know how to put it into words. I could never be a lawyer. I'm getting panicky just trying to defend an imaginary stuff pack that I've created for this game. But thank you all so much for being here and listening to me ramble over this. I would absolutely love to hear your opinions. It's wild to me that we're almost 3 years into kits being a thing and we're still having these discussions. It really does feel like the community can't really decide what the best way to not have kits is. I mean, the Sims community is big. Are we ever gonna make up our minds?